Hello, welcome back to BlenderSushi Live Noding. So in this episode, we're gonna take a look at Python and animation nodes and spreadshock once again. Um, the idea today is how we can use kind of learn how to use a basic Python to change the attribute of an object. So it's something that I'm doing it on and off. If because I don't do much of scripting myself, but oftentimes I really like to do it um, using nodes. For example, we're gonna do something with the light. For example, yeah, okay. Let's start with just a bit of setup. So we have this lamp. Um, so the lamp has a few attributes. For example, it has this color and energy that we can adjust. Let me change this to texture so we can see the light. So let's make like a 3 light, and with a 3 light we can we can change the energy, change the color so it's more obvious. So red, green, yellow. So we have that nice setup. Sometimes you want to control all these at the same time. Blender doesn't work like that, so you can't just select a bunch of objects and then change the attribute. Sometimes you kind of want to do that really quickly, and I believe in order to do that you can use Python script. You can use driver as well, but I'm not 100% sure. There's a let's say you can actually like use drivers for this. Like this is probably a silly way to do it, but you can use like a hash frame and then times 0.01 and copy that, and then I think copy driver, paste driver, and then you can sort of adjust the energy that way. It's kind of like the new MacBook Pro Touch ID, the touch bar slider, kind of the idea. Anyway, that's a very silly way to do it, but you could use a Python, for example. So this is gonna be Python attribute. When we are using Python, we can, let's say for the energy, okay, let's see. Whenever we make adjustment like to the color and to the energy, we can see, okay, there's a BPY context object data energy. We can sort of doing it that way. If I'm not wrong, it will work with multiple objects. BPY context object data energy equal 1, for example. So now are they all 1? So no, apparently only selecting the only works on the active object, but you can do kind of like a filtering with Python in Blender. So my way of Python scripting is very kind of very hacky. It's more like a once-off thing. Every now and then it's like a macro, but I learned how to dig into objects time to time. Like we can for example with BPY we can get to the data, and then we can find a lamp, and we can see, okay, we have 3 lamps in the scene. For lamp number 1 we can say change the energy to 0. Oh, apparently it doesn't work like that. Maybe. Oh, okay, so apparently this is how you do it. Change it to 0.5, change it to 5. You see, you can that's how you might want to dig in. So the lamp also have name. I'm gonna turn on the name for the lamp. So if we let's say if you don't know Python at all, I'll try to explain it to you. So import BPY is importing the Blender Python module. So with the BPY, you have a lot of commands, functions that you can do. The simplest one is the BPY data, and then you can find any of the objects in the scene, and each object has a type. Like the camera is a camera, lamp is a type of lamp, and then there's the object polygon, which is type of objects or meshes. Let me quickly check. There are all type objects, but each one of them is has a certain attributes to it. Objects is because they have like a transform. However, for things like light, we can query, oh, okay, give me all the lamps in the scene, for example. So ppy.data.lamps, I can put it inside of variables, call it my lamps, and then I can say for each lamp in my lamps, give me the name of the lamp. So lamp 001, lamp 002. So we can kind of do it. I think my lamps, we can do it by index or by name. For my lamps, which has name my lamp, change the energy to 0, so it works. So that's what's the color of this guy? This is blue, and this is red, and this is the yellow. Okay, that's a kind of okay, and you can do it for the same time as well, and you can do the randomizations in here. Like if you import random as random, oh, okay, from this is, I'm importing another module named random and call it random, and I can do things like random.random, and I get this random number. I can apply that to the value, but doing it with scripting sometimes a little bit more convoluted than necessary. So sometimes I use animation nodes to do it. So with animation nodes, we can say select bunch of objects, whether I'm grouping it or I'm using this kind of a magic node in animation nodes. It's called selected get selected object, and let's see. So animation nodes kind of know what's the objects currently being selected, so I can quickly use the object attribute output and plug in this thing, and then plug in the objects like data.energy value has wrong type because I have not provided any float. So now I can control every lamp at the same time. See, 1.02. Now all the energy of the lamp is 1.02. So that's animation nodes. If we do that, it works fine. One way to do it, but this day I'm trying to understand Spreadchalk way to control object attribute as well. With Spreadchalk, sometimes I found it's more advanced because you're kind of doing it all at the same time. The key is to find one of these object ID nodes. I think the developer named KOSVOR did all this, and they're pretty useful actually. Let's start with object get. With object get, we can kind of filter out what object we want to work in. Like currently we are in the objects modes, so we have others like action, etc., etc. I don't know. I haven't not touched all of that, but that's all the modes that Blender understand. With the objects, you have choice like mesh, curve, surface, meta, font, etc., and then lamp. Let's work with the lamp, for example. With the lamp, and then we want to set the attribute of the lamp. You see, this is kind of more like a mysterious type of node. You plug in the object. Okay, now we are working on what? We are working on the object attribute. Let's say energy. It gives a red. That means something wrong with it. Let's give it like a float value. Don't crash. I'm doing rendering. That's why it's a little bit slower. It doesn't seem to work. Apparently, with things like lamp, energy is actually ppy.context.object.data.energy. That's why we need to use this data.energy. Now we can control the energy, and this is actually controlling all of them. See, 2.8 for all of this lamp, because we are filtering all the lamp. That's one way you can do it. I believe there is also object ID filtering, so you can filter it by name. So object, filter it by name. What's the masking? The masking should be the name. Do we have a string input? Maybe we don't have string input. Maybe we can use integer. No, let's use a expression formula. Save. Let's say mask get objects with the name lamp. It's probably gonna fail because I might be doing it wrong. But I'll see. Yeah, I think this is slightly unusual. Maybe I'm not gonna use that yet. I will try to change the color of this lamp procedurally. Well, I mean, with Spreadchalk, it's kind of like a little bit of Pythons, and it's a little bit more complex, I found sometimes. The color of this lamp should be .data.color. Okay, so data.color. So this is not gonna work. We need to use maybe use a vector. So yeah, with the lamp, we can just use a vector. It's not like RGBA. It's just RGB, 3 values, and we can control all the lamp. Now all the lamp has the same color. So this is cool. This is a actually simpler than if you're doing it using animation nodes. Simpler because with animation nodes you kind of need to loop through each object, so it's totally up to you. But in SpreadChalk it's much simpler. Just get all the objects type of lamp, and then we want to work on the attributes data color, and the color is this RGB. What if you want like a random color? Will it work? I don't know. Apparently it does work actually. So you have this random color. Sometimes the color goes to 000. Let's check with stethoscope. Yeah, sometimes the value goes to minus, so we don't want that. We want a value that's we can control. So random number generator, make it float value between 0 and 1. Okay, that's good. 1, 2, and one more, 3. I'm randomizing the seed, and we have random color for each one of these. But the energy is still pretty high, so I change the data.energy back. The value should be float. So now I'm controlling the energy of every lamp. I don't know if Object ID has documentation yet. Maybe soon there will be documentation for it. So this grab all the lamp, so we can control the lamp. Let's say it seems to work. Okay, this seems to work. Now if maybe we want to control the lamp positioning, objects ID set. By default it's a delta location. Delta locations is probably, I haven't used that much, but I think we can control the position. Random vector. Okay, all the lamps seem to be offsetted. We can increase the count. Now all the lamp has different position. See, the count number is also matter. So depend on how many lamps we have in the scenes, we have to be aware of it. Let's say objects have 6, so we have count of 6. We can use the least length to get the number of the lamp. Stethoscope here. Okay, it's level 0. We have 6. If we use Python, we can say bpy.data lamps. It says 6. Okay, cool. Let's have a bit more. Check it again. Okay, we have 11. You can, I think you can figure out by doing this as well. Length is not defined. Okay, it's actually length 11. Say 11, and we have 11 up here as well if I update it. Okay, this is grabbing all the light. Okay, now cool. It's controlling the color and controlling the energy as well. I can plug this length into the size and the count. And now I can randomize the position of the lamp. I can control the energy, randomize the light color. Let's do something with the delta here. Instead of random position, let's use a plain position for that. And I believe we can control the position. So apparently the lamp is not in their 000 position, so I need to reset all the position of the lamp, and now they are in the grid. So I'm controlling it using this grid plane vector. It's just like the same thing like when you're doing it using animation nodes, except that you're using loop and objects grouping, and then with the sphere chalk it's almost like with sphere chalk you kind of like you have a bunch of numbers here. Let's say number is like x x x and it's y y y, a bunch of numbers, and you plug it all of them into one object, and it's gonna do the factorizations automatically. With animation nodes, you kind of grab a bunch of objects and then loop it through its objects, and then for each loop do something, like do all the list of this procedure. With spreadchalk it's kind of like a very streamlined, like a lot of data coming in, and then do it to one or multiple objects at the same time. It's more advanced. So let's see what the color is. The color properly distributed? Yeah, I think they have random color. Not so obvious if we are looking at it like this. Maybe I need to add subdivisions to this guy. Subdivision 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. With more subdivision, we can see the color of the light better. Maybe this is too high. Okay, that's better. Simplified it more. Maybe OpenGL will do the job better. GLSL. Yeah, GLSL gives a better preview on the 3D view. Randomize the color. I think that's really nice. Say we have like more color, make it 4 times. Or 3 times. If we update it and update this guy, so we can adjust the position of the lamp that way. Let's say you want to make arrangement of the light like in a single line, or in a kind of like spherical kind of way. You can use sphere, and then how many 8 by 8, plug into that guy, and then so it's kind of doing it. Maybe 3 by 3 or 4 by 4. Oh, it's actually doing it, but because I have like offset for the light, so I need to select all the light again and then reset all their positions. And now the lamp is being arranged like a sphere. Maybe make it 10 by 10. So it's like more like a dome kind of light. If we have Suzanne, smooth it. Yeah, pretty interesting. I have not tried the lamp with different textures. That might be interesting. It's kind of like a projected, a lot of light projecting different image. That could be interesting effects. So lamp we can control. What else we can do? But this is an interesting way to work with objects. So objects ID, we work with the get and the set. we haven't worked with sort and filter yet, but it's like you do that quite often with in Python. I think sorting and filtering to get to the right data, and then you kind of modify the data and then return the data and pass it back to the scene. That's probably what you do most of the time if you're like for intermediate programmer or beginner, you just work on the scene. You have like you have 1,000 or 10,000 objects in the scene, and you want to kind of reposition them. You can do that using nodes or using Python. Let's say I have a bunch of Suzanne here. And I want to arrange Suzanne. I can do that real quick. So get all the objects, and this time type of mesh. It's gonna grab Suzanne and the grid as well, I believe. Object ID set objects value random or use line. How many Suzanne we have? 6, 7? Oh, we have, okay, 8. So you can arrange the object that way, and then if you're doing using the objects, you can just select all and delete it, and we are done. Back to normal workflow. You can make adjustment. Because we're doing it in the delta, it's the nice thing about delta is delta transform is kind of like the offset of an object. It's very interesting. With Blender, it's kind of a way you zero out an object. It's kind of like the original position, I guess. So yeah, that's a quick look on how you would change the attributes of objects, like the transform, location, and then with the light we know how to control the energy, and then the lights. Hopefully I explain it somehow. It's even though it's a pretty random here and there, it's very heuristic kind of way of learning, I guess. But yeah, hopefully it's useful for you. It's that's another live noding session. Hopefully you get something. If you have any question or comments, you can leave it down below.